Alright, Scavenger. These creatures are just kind of bad. I do know there's definitely one creature that needs to go down, and that's Apatosaurus. I'm going to say right now, Apatosaurus is hatchling 100%. It just is garbage. It kind of slipped through the cracks, although I will say that with so many people working on this list, like, some things were going to slip through, especially with all these creatures in the game. So, sorry about that, but yeah, Apatosaurus is hatchling. It shouldn't be in Scavenger. Now, onto the actual Scavenger list. Allosaurus, it's not that bad, but it's just the impact and the strike is really all it has. It's bulky, and it hits hard, but again, it's just one of those like Rex like chompers. It's bulkier than Rex, but it just hits hard and then kind of just doesn't want to and dies. And it doesn't do as much as like Rex or Gorgosaurus. Gorgosaurus is definitely better than Rex, I will say, boosted. Amargasaurus, it just has 2 impacts, and that's really it. It doesn't do much. And it doesn't do much output. It's just not good. Amphicyon just has the impact and strike, and it's got no escape, but that's really all it has. It can't do much. Ankylosaurus, just 2 shields and just superior vulnerability is all it has. The bulk is okay, but that's really it. Aquilamimus, garbage. Again, like Struthiomimus, that group distraction move is absolutely garbage in PvP. Also, Evasive Rampage isn't bad, and same with Distracting Impact. It's just that it lacks immunities, it lacks output, and it's really frail. Baryonyx Gen2 has Ready to Crush. Unfortunately, it only has an impact and can't do much after that. It's also slower, and just doesn't lack the offensive power as Baryonyx Gen1. Brontotherium, another really good common. Got resilient impact, although no form of speed control really does hurt it, but resilient impact isn't bad, and the strike isn't bad either. It's pretty bulky. It will stay around for a bit for a common. Darwin is it's designed to be like, all right, you hit something with the impact and then you swoop away, but it's also got, it's again like so many creatures like Darwinopterus and stuff like that. It's a messy creature. It just doesn't function well because it's like, all right, I want to swap and wound, and then now I'm stuck here and I'm like only got 2,700 HP and I can't do anything. Like Scav can heal and just run away, but Darwin can't. Deinocheirus. It's got the Revenge Rampage, which is really good, but that's all it has. It's really frail. Dilophosaurus Gen2 has the high damage and impact, but that's, again, all it has. It doesn't do much. Dracorex Gen2, again, all these are like, I have this one thing, but a lot of the creatures in here are like, I have this one thing, but that's it. Like, Dracorex Gen2 has a swap, but then it just sits on the field and dies. Echo's definitely worse than Charlie and Delta. Cleansing Impact on a Raptor is not a good move. It's really just pounce and then dies. Edmontoguanodon, again, when like so many Hadrosaurs, just keeps trying to heal and dies. Eucladoceros. Both the Eucladoceros and Megalosaurus really do not function well. They're incredibly frail. They have no output, and they can get one shot so easily. They don't do anything. The healing is okay, but that's really all they have. They don't do much. Euoplocephalus, one of my favorite. It's actually my favorite dinosaur, but and it's also a really, really good common. Why? It's got superior vulnerability to Rampage. That's a really good, devastating combo. However, unlike Glyptodon, it can't deal with distraction on the Rampage, or it can't deal with evasion. Glyptodon can, Euoplocephalus cannot, which is a shame. Haast Eagle, although Euoplocephalus does also have 40% armor, great bulk like Glyptodon, and is also slightly faster, which is also really cool. Good. Now, Haast Eagle. Haast Eagle is bad. It has essentially no multipliers, fearless flap, and distraction, and evasive strike. That's all it has. And it has terrible damage. 132 speed is really good, but that's all. That's it. It's got, again, it's like a one-trick pony. It's like, yeah, I got 132 speed. Well, what am I gonna do with it? Irritator Gen2, again, I have swap and definite strike, but what am I gonna do with it? And that's all it does. It just swaps in and it kind of just dies. Koolasuchus Gen2, again, like Haast, it's got a really good damage multiplier with 1500, but again, it just has strikes. Also slower, but it's bulkier. I would say it's better than Haast. Lynthronax, it's really defensive. Priority shields and shielding attack. With the counter attack, it's really defensive. It wants to just hit you with the counter attack, but again, it's slow and it can't do much outside of that. I already covered Megalosaurus. Miragaia, again, kind of like Lynthronax. It's got shielding D-cell strike now, but it's even more frail. Although it does have a healing move, which is good. It can regenerate, but it's slow, it's frail, and it relies on the counterattack. Nundasuchus, fast, ferocious strike, which is actually really good compared to, I would say, out of all the non-hybrid like land crocs, it's easily the best, which is pathetic. It's fastest out of all of them, 128 speed, good damage, 1500, ferocious strike, good output, armor piercing strike, not bad. It's a speedster. It's a fierce speedster. Ophiacodon, on the other hand, is more like the Metrodon. It's got more crit chance, armor piercing rampage, good output at 1400. Although it has poor turn 1 options. Proceratosaurus, it's just a lousy cunning. It's kind of like how Eucladoceros and Megalosaurus are, but with cunnings. It's slow. It's not defensive really. It's got no good off knees, and it doesn't deal that much output. Pteradon, it's like a incredibly frail counterattacker. It's got decent stuff going for it, but it doesn't have much going for it. Armor piercing counter isn't bad, but it just doesn't work well. It's too frail. Sarcosuchus, bleed, no escape. It's just, compared to Spinosaurus, it's slower, and it's also got no other options besides strike. At least Spino can impact. Scolosaurus, like Euoplocephalus, this time it's got more output, but Taunting Rampage is not available turn 1. Whereas Euoplocephalus can rampage turn 1 if it wants. So they're essentially a package duo. You put one in one tier, you put the other in the same tier. More output, D-cell immunity, but it's got the only one turn 1. It's also not as bulky either, but it's still a good common. Sinosauropteryx, flock that cannot regenerate. That is not the best thing. Although it's got good output, good immunities. Precise bounce isn't bad. It just takes 3 hits and it dies. Skoolasaurus does nothing. It's garbage. This thing was made for raids. It cannot function in a PvP environment. Same with Trago. Trago cannot function in a PvP environment. Both of them only have times 1 attacks. Trago can do slightly better, I will say, but both of them don't work. Spinotahraptor is just outdated. It's really outdated, which is a shame. It's a good epic, but it's frail, it's slow, it cannot, and compared to Spinosaurus, it can't deal as much bleed damage. It's got a worse bleed move. Cunning impact is okay, distracting. But it's already so frail. It's alright, I either have to go for cunning impact or the wound, and I'm gonna die either way. So it's just not good. Suchomimus, Suchomimus is slower, much slower, but like the Spinosaurus, but it's also, which is good and bad because Suchomimus can swap out, but your opponent can't. Whereas something faster like Spinosaurus could maybe swap out, but then that gives the opponent the opportunity to also swap out. So being slower as a bleeder like Suchomimus isn't bad, although it's just got nothing else besides lethal wound. Tarbosaurus, kind of like Allosaurus, not as frail. Doesn't deal as much output guaranteed, but it has that 40% crit chance, which isn't bad. But after that, that's where it really stops. It's just meh. Dracorex Gen2. Triceratops Gen2, great swap-in, rampage right after it. Only one of 2 ceratopsians with a rampage right after the swap. The other being Ceramagnus. But it's got good output after the swap. The swap is always good. It's just a really solid common. It could definitely maybe use a bit more damage, but it's a common. So, Tubendactylus, pretty defensive and offensive. It's okay. It's got team synergy with impact and run. But that's really all it has. Again, it's another one-trick pony, but it's not that amazing. Utahraptor, it's a slow raptor. I would say it's the worst raptor in the game, besides like Deinocheirus, which we'll get to in hatchling, but it's slower than Echo. Like 128 is just way too slow for something that it's wanting to be, and the output is not the best either. So that's Utahraptor. And then Woolly Mammoth just doesn't do anything. PFS is really good, but then it just has that impact, which doesn't do much. I remember it used to have 1,400 damage, and then armor piercing rampage. Oh man, that was insane. Now it's just got 1,000 damage, a group T cell impact, and PFS, and 1,000 damage. It doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. So that is Scavenger. Now onto the final tier, Hatchling.